Welcome to PM Ready, your guide to becoming PMP certified. This is part 4 of Earned Value. You will have noticed in our example project in our previous lessons that getting back to the originally planned pace of work and cost doesn't make up for the lost time and money at the beginning, so the project still ends up late and over budget. So you should at least be able to calculate what it would take to get back on track and finish the project on time and on budget. This will allow you to evaluate the feasibility of any proposed change resulting in the project still finishing on time and on budget. It will also allow you to answer stakeholders' questions about what it would take. In our digital scanning example, we would need to finish the remaining work in the remaining schedule and with the remaining budget. That is 90 boxes in 8 days with $6,000. With some simple calculations, you can see that you would need to finish 90 divided by 8, which is 11.25 boxes per day, and spend $6,000 divided by 8 days, or $750 per day. That is $66.67 per box. An earned value concept that you may run across is the Two Complete Performance Index, or TCPI, which is basically the CPI or SPI necessary for the rest of the project in order to finish on time and on budget. It is used primarily to determine if an estimate at completion, or EAC, is reasonable. The formula for TCPI is the remaining work divided by the remaining budget. Or in other words, the BAC minus EV divided by the BAC minus AC. For our example, TCPI would be the $9,000 of remaining work to be done divided by the $6,000 worth of remaining budget, or 1.5. In other words, our CPI, which has been 0.25 or 1/4, 25% for the first 2 days, would need to be 1.5 or 150% for the rest of the project in order to finish on budget. Is this a reasonable change in CPI? Not likely. Similarly, for the schedule, we can calculate the Two Complete Schedule Performance Index, which is the remaining work divided by the remaining time. In our case, that's 9 days worth of work in 8 days, or 1.125, about 112%. In other words, our SPI, which has been 50% for the first 2 days, would need to be over 100%, or 1.125, for the rest of the project in order to finish on schedule. This may be doable. And now for the quiz. The project is already underway, the software development team has started coding, and the PMO is handing over the project to Robert. During the handover, Robert is told that the CPI is 1.1 and the SPI is 0.8. 25% of the project work should have been completed by now. In order to finish this project on budget, what TCPI is needed? The key to answering this question, apart from knowing the formula for TCPI, is to recognize that you need to figure out the earned value and actual cost from these percentages and performance indexes. You can do this by using a little bit of arithmetic on the formulas for SPI and CPI. Earned value is PV times SPI, which is 25%, is what we'd planned to have done by now, times 0.8, the SPI, or 20%. AC is EV divided by CPI, or 20% divided by 1.1, or 18.2%. Using these numbers in the formula, you get 0.978, or rounded to 0.98, or D being the correct answer. There's actually another way to approach this problem by estimating and evaluating the possible answers. You can see that the project is under budget so far, and the CPI required to finish on budget, therefore, will be a bit less than 1. The current CPI is 10% better than planned, and the project is a bit less than 25% complete because SPI is less than 1. So the TCPI can be a little bit less than 1. That tells us that B and C, which are over 1, are not the correct answers, leaving us with A or D. Now, with most of the project still to go, we can't afford for the TCPI to be very much less than 1. If it were 0.88, we would be over budget by the time we were halfway through. So that leaves just 0.98 as the correct answer. Now you can use this simplified approach to confirm or check your answer, or if you're more comfortable with this approach than the formulas, you could use this as the primary method for answering these types of questions. Number 2. The project budget is $1 million. Halfway through the project, at the point where it was planned that half the budget would have been spent, only $400,000 has been spent, and 45% of the work has been completed. The project sponsor has asked to finish the project on time, even if it costs more than originally budgeted. What SPI would be needed for the remainder of the project in order for it to be completed on time? To solve this one, you need to recognize that the earned value of what remains divided by the planned value of what remains, or $550,000 divided by $500,000, is 1.1. Another way to estimate this or look at this or confirm your answer is to recognize that with 45% of the work completed at halfway through the project, you're about 10% behind schedule. And so you'll need to be 10% ahead of schedule for the rest of the project in order to finish on time. And that would be 1.1. Now it's time to cover some observations and caveats about earned value analysis. For example, at the start of the project, notice that the actual cost, the earned value, the planned value, and the cost variance are all equal to 0. Nothing's been spent so far, so actual cost is 0. Nothing's been done so far, so the earned value is 0. Nothing was planned to be done yet by the beginning of the project, so planned value is 0. And there's no variance on cost, so the cost variance is also 0. As for schedule, the actual time is 0 because no time has elapsed yet. The earned schedule is 0 because nothing's been accomplished yet. And the schedule variance is also 0. Also at the beginning of the project, the estimate at completion, your best forecast for what it's going to cost to finish the project, is the same as your budget at completion, which is the same as your performance measurement baseline, which, since nothing's been done yet, is also the same as your estimate to complete, which is how much more you think it's going to cost to finish the project. There are also a few interesting things to note about the values of earned value variables at the end of the project. At the end of the project, the planned value is the same as the budget at completion, which is the same as your performance measurement baseline, because now you're done. All of the work that was planned to be done is done, according to the plan. Similarly, your schedule variance is 0, because now there's no time left. It's all done. And your SPI is 1.0. Again, because now you've reached the end of your project. Also notice that your estimate at completion and your budget at completion are equal only if the project costs exactly equal the planned budget. Most of the time, your estimate at completion will be different from your budget at completion. Now you need to be aware of the schedule variance and schedule performance index because they have a mathematical loophole with late projects. Naturally, at the end of a project that is on time, the schedule variance will be 0 and the schedule performance index will be 1.0. For a project that is on time, the earned value is the same as the planned value, is the same as the budget at completion. The schedule variance is equal to the earned value minus the planned value, which is 0. And the schedule performance index is the earned value divided by the planned value, which equals 1. Now this is all for a project that's perfectly on time. And so you would expect to have these perfect measurements. On the other hand, if a project is early, then the schedule variance and schedule performance index will be positive because the project's full scope will be completed before the present value reaches the budget completion. You can see this by following through the formulas that show you that the earned value equals the budget at completion, which is greater than the planned value. And the schedule variance equals the earned value minus the planned value, which is greater than 0. And the schedule performance index equals the earned value divided by the planned value, which will be greater than 1. This is all as you would expect for a project that is either on time or early. However, if a project is late, schedule variance equals 0 and schedule performance index equals 1, as if it had been perfectly on time. This is because even in a late project, once the scope is complete, the earned value finally catches up to the planned value. So EV equals PV, which equals the budget. So schedule variance equals earned value minus planned value, which equals 0. And the schedule performance index is the earned value over the planned value, which equals 1. Once a project passes the planned completion date, the less and less schedule variance and schedule performance index will tell you about schedule variance and schedule performance. We close this loophole with a concept called earned schedule. Unlike schedule variances and schedule performance indexes, earned schedule continues to be meaningful throughout the project. When using earned schedule, remember that planned duration is the planned duration of the whole project and is analogous to the budget at completion, not planned value. When a late project is finished, earned schedule catches up to planned value. So earned schedule equals planned value. However, the schedule variance is the earned schedule minus the actual time. So the actual time will be greater than the earned schedule. The schedule variance will be less than 0. Similarly, the schedule performance index using earned schedule is the earned schedule divided by the actual time. So the schedule performance in earned schedule terms is less than 1. Time for another quiz. Number 1. At the beginning of the project, all of the following are equal except for BAC, EAC, ETC, or PV. The answer is PV. Remember that BAC is the budget at completion, which is the total project budget, which is sometimes referred to as the performance measurement baseline, which at the very beginning of the project will be the whole project budget. Also, no work has been done yet, so the estimate to complete and the estimate at completion are also both equal to the BAC or budget. Remember that PV is the planned value at a point in time during the project, not the total project budget. They are only equal at the end of the project, not the start. At the beginning of the project, the PV at that time is 0. Number 2. At the end of the project, all of the following are equal except for BAC, PMB, PV, or EAC. The correct answer is D, EAC. Again, recall that BAC is the budget of completion, which is the total PV for the project, which is sometimes referred to as the performance measurement baseline, or PMB. These are set at the beginning of the project and all represent the total authorized budget for the project, which, if changed, changes them all. The estimate at completion, or EAC, however, will be more or less than the planned budget, depending on whether the project comes in over or under budget. Number 3. At the end of the project, SV A will be 0, B will be the difference between planned and actual scope, C will be positive if the project finished ahead of schedule, or D will be negative if the project finished behind schedule. The answer is A will be 0, because recall that schedule variance is the earned value minus the planned value, and earned value is the amount of planned value completed. At the end of the project, when all of the work is finished, all of the PV has been completed, so earned value equals planned value, so there's no variance. SV equals 0. At the end of the project, CVA will be the difference between planned and actual scope, B will be the difference between the project budget and the actual amount spent, C will be positive if the project finished ahead of schedule, or D will be the difference between planned value and earned value. The correct answer is B. Recall that CV is earned value minus actual cost. At the end of the project, earned value equals the planned value, which equals the budget completion, which equals the project budget. To conclude, let's review the earned value variables and formulas that we've covered. PV is planned value, or the budgeted cost of the work that's been scheduled. EV is earned value, or the total budget for the amount of work that has been completed so far. AC is the actual cost of the work that's been completed so far. CV is the cost variance. SV is the schedule variance. CPI and SPI are the cost and schedule performance indices. The traditional names for PV, EV, and AC are BCWS, or the budgeted cost of work scheduled, BCWP, or the budgeted cost of work performed, and ACWP, the actual cost of work performed. Although these variables are longer and make the formulas a little more difficult to follow, it helps you understand the meaning much better. BAC is the budget at completion, or the total project budget, or the performance measurement baseline. ETC is the estimate to complete the project. EAC is the estimate at completion, or how much you think it's going to cost in total. VAC is the variance at completion, how far off we'll be when we're done. And TCPI is the to complete performance index, the CPI that would be needed in order to finish the project on budget. The earned schedule variables are PD for planned duration, ES for earned schedule, and AT for actual time, SPIT for the schedule performance index in time units rather than money, and TSPI, the to complete schedule performance index. The cost variance is the earned value minus the actual cost. The schedule variance is the earned value minus the planned value. The schedule variance in earned schedule time is earned schedule minus actual time. The cost performance index is the earned value divided by the actual cost. The schedule performance index is the earned value divided by the planned value. And the schedule performance index in earned schedule terms is the earned schedule divided by the actual time. For forecasting, you add the actual cost or time to the estimate to complete. The estimate to complete is the amount of time or money that you expect to spend to finish. And in the case of a project that is continuing as it has been, you can use the simple formulas and divide either the total project budget or the planned duration by CPI or SPI. The variance at completion is the difference between the budget and the estimated actuals. And the TCPI is the remaining work divided by the remaining budget, or for earned schedule, it's the remaining work in measurements of time divided by the remaining time. This concludes our lessons on earned value. The information in these earned value lessons is consistent with the Project Management Institute's PMBOK guide. However, the content itself is based on other publicly available sources and goes beyond what is found in the PMBOK guide.